You know, there are these silent wars happening every single day, completely out of sight. And today, we're pulling back the curtain on one of the most powerful and honestly most secretive players in that game, India's Research and Analysis Wing, or as it's more famously known, RAW.
And if you want to understand South Asia, you have to understand this one, Central Rivalry. For decades, India's RAW and Pakistan's ISI have been locked in this, well, it's a shadow war. It's this incredibly complex dance of spies, secret operations, and a constant, relentless fight for control.
So, who exactly is RAW? Let's get right into it and break down India's top spy agency.
Okay, so its full name is the Research and Analysis Wing, but everyone just calls it RAW. And its job, on paper, is pretty straightforward: protect India's interests outside of India. But what does that actually mean? Well, it means everything from gathering intelligence on other countries to hunting down terrorists, and yeah, when they feel it's necessary, running some pretty serious covert operations.
Now, you might think an agency this powerful has been around forever, right? Well, not exactly. It didn't just pop into existence. Its origin story is actually born from a massive failure, a really devastating military defeat.
It's kind of wild when you think about it, but for the first 20 years after independence, India didn't have a separate foreign spy agency. They just had one organization, the Intelligence Bureau, or IB, handling everything, both at home and abroad. And, well, that setup was about to be put to the ultimate test, and fail.
That test came in 1962, with the border war against China, and it was a disaster, an absolute wake-up call. As Major General V.K. Singh put it so bluntly, our intelligence failed to detect Chinese buildup for the attack. I mean, they were caught completely off guard, totally exposed, and the result was a painful defeat.
So that shock, that failure in 1962, is the direct reason RAW was created in 1968. The government realized they needed an agency that was laser-focused on foreign threats, especially China and Pakistan. And this new agency, it didn't waste any time proving it was worth the investment. Just 3 years later, it played a massive role in a huge regional event.
And that first big win kicked off what a lot of people call RAW's golden age. This was a time when the agency pulled off one incredible, daring operation after another.
And a huge amount of the credit for that goes to one man, Rameshwar Nathkal, the very first chief of RAW. He took this brand new organization and, under his leadership, turned it into a real powerhouse on the world stage. They quickly got a reputation for being incredibly effective and, yeah, pretty bold.
And look at the sheer scale of what they were doing. We're not talking about small victories here. These were moves that literally changed history. Helping create Bangladesh, that redrew the entire map of South Asia. Protecting India's nuclear program, that cemented the country's place as a major world power. This was a whole new, much more assertive way for India to operate.
But you know how it goes. With that kind of power and that level of secrecy, controversy is never far behind. RAW's story isn't all just about incredible successes. It's also tied up in some of the most difficult and dark moments in the region's history. And maybe the best example of this is its involvement in the civil war in Sri Lanka. RAW made a decision to support a Tamil separatist group. And, well, that decision would backfire in the most tragic way imaginable.
It's a really tragic story of blowback. You see, in the 70s, RAW was actually training and arming a group called the LTTE. But by the 1980s, the tables had completely turned, and India ended up fighting the very same group. It was a massive miscalculation, and it had horrific consequences, leading directly to the assassination of former Prime Minister Rajiv Gandhi in 1991 by a bomber from the LTTE.
Meanwhile, that shadow war with Pakistan was heating up big time. When Pakistan's ISI started backing Sikh militants in India, RAW didn't just sit back. They hit back hard, creating these special counterintelligence teams. And what came next was this super dangerous tit-for-tat cycle. RAW was accused of carrying out bombings in major Pakistani cities. Things got so out of hand, so intense, that the heads of RAW and the ISI actually had to meet in secret just to call a truce.
So you've got these huge controversies, and then you add in some major operational failures. And suddenly, this agency that seemed untouchable was under a massive microscope. It forced a real moment of reckoning, a period where they had to take a hard look at themselves and make some changes.
And it's kind of ironic, right? Just like the 1962 war created RAW, another war in 1999 nearly broke it. I'm talking about the Kargil War. Once again, India was caught completely by surprise when Pakistani-backed forces crossed into its territory. It was seen as a colossal intelligence failure, and a lot of the blame was pointed directly at RAW and the other agencies.
So, of course, a big investigation was launched. And what the committee found wasn't pretty. They pointed out some really serious problems. The different agencies just weren't talking to each other. Their analysis was weak. Their communication channels were a mess. Basically, it painted a picture of a broken system that was just not working effectively. The government had to do something. So, in response, they launched this massive overhaul. They created whole new agencies, like the NTRO to handle the tech side of things and the DIA for military intelligence. The whole goal was to plug the gaps that the Kargil War had so brutally exposed.
Now, RAW's official budget is, of course, a top secret. But to give you an idea of the scale we're talking about, back in the year 2000, estimates put its funding at around $145 million. So, yeah, a pretty significant operation.
And all that money supported a huge growth in people. I mean, think about this. The agency started with just 250 people. By 2000, that number had exploded to somewhere between 8,000 and 10,000 agents. That's a massive, massive jump in both its budget and its global reach.
But even with all those reforms, the story isn't over. Critics today will tell you that some of the old problems are still there. They argue the agency is still way too secretive and that it still doesn't play well with other domestic agencies. It just goes to show how incredibly difficult it is to manage a massive spy agency like this.
So when you look at the whole picture, the story of RAW is just full of these huge contrasts, right? Incredible triumphs and terrible tragedies. Building a nation on one hand and fighting secret wars on the other. And it all leaves you with this one really big question. In our chaotic world, where do you draw the line between protecting your own country and keeping an entire region stable?